Okay, so let's talk about tetanus. We've all heard the name, right? It's usually what someone yells after you step on a rusty nail. But what is it, really? Beyond that vague warning, there's a fascinating and kind of terrifying story of a silent saboteur that's found literally everywhere, one that can turn a tiny cut into an absolute life-or-death battle. So, let's dive in.
First things first, let's just get a sense of the scale here. Even though it's almost completely preventable, experts figure that tetanus still kills somewhere between 30 and 50,000 people every single year, all around the world. I mean, think about that. That's a staggering number for a disease we have an incredibly effective vaccine for. This isn't some ancient plague, it's a modern-day killer hiding in plain sight.
So that really brings us to the core question, doesn't it? How does this even happen? How can a common bacteria that's just hanging out in the dirt hijack our entire nervous system and cause this neurological nightmare? Well, to answer that, you have to meet the culprit.
The organism we're talking about is called Clostridium tetani. And the most important thing to know about it is that its spores are, well, they're everywhere. In the soil, in dust, even in animal droppings. And these spores are ridiculously tough. You can boil them, freeze them, throw disinfectants at them. They just don't care. They just sit there, dormant, waiting for the perfect chance to strike.
But here's the twist. The bacteria itself, it's not what makes you sick. The real problem, the absolute danger, starts when those spores get into a wound somewhere there isn't a lot of oxygen. That's when they wake up, start multiplying, and begin to produce a substance called tetanus neurotoxin. And this toxin, it is one of the most lethal poisons on the entire planet. No exaggeration.
So, once this incredibly potent toxin is released into the body, where does it go? Well, it begins this unseen invasion, a silent journey deep into the command center of your body, the central nervous system.
The journey follows a very specific path. First, the spores get in through any break in the skin. And it doesn't have to be a big rusty nail, it could be a simple scrape or a scratch. Second, in that low oxygen spot, the spores come to life. Third, the now active bacteria start churning out that neurotoxin. Fourth, the toxin gets into your peripheral nerves and basically hitches a ride, traveling all the way up the nerve highway to your spinal cord and your brainstem. And fifth, once it gets to central command, that's when it starts its sabotage. And here's the best way to picture what it does. Think of your nerves as having go signals and stop signals for your muscles. The tetanus toxin is incredibly specific. It goes right for the nerves that send the stop signals, and it just shuts them down. It's literally like a saboteur sneaking in and cutting the brake lines on your car. Your motor neurons, the ones that tell your muscles to contract, are now stuck in the on position, firing over and over and over with no way to stop them.
And the result of that sabotage is a full-scale assault on the body. With all the signals haywire, the muscles are thrown into a state of violent, painful chaos.
This is what leads to those classic and, frankly, horrifying symptoms. It usually starts with trismus, which we know as lockjaw. The jaw muscles just clamp shut. Then you get something called rhesus sardonicus, which is this fixed, almost mocking-looking grin caused by facial muscle spasms. From there, it gets worse, excruciating full-body muscle spasms so powerful they can actually break bones. The back and stomach muscles go rigid as a board, and even swallowing becomes nearly impossible.
But you know, perhaps the most chilling part of all this is that unlike a lot of other neurological infections, the person's mind is completely clear. They are 100% conscious and aware of every single thing that is happening as their own body completely revolts against them.
And it goes beyond just the muscles. The toxin also attacks the autonomic nervous system. You know, the part that controls all the stuff you don't think about, like your heart rate and blood pressure. This is what doctors fear most. It causes these wild, unpredictable swings. Your heart rate can race dangerously fast one minute and then plummet the next. It's often this cardiovascular chaos that ultimately kills.
So is there a way to fight back once an infection takes hold? Yes, but it is a desperate, drawn-out battle that has to be fought in the intensive care unit. It's a full-on, resource-heavy war against the toxin's effects.
The strategy has to hit from multiple angles at once. First, doctors have to control the source, clean out the wound, give antibiotics to kill the bacteria. Second, they give an antitoxin to try and neutralize any poison that hasn't made it to the nervous system yet. Third, they use heavy sedation and powerful muscle relaxants to try and get those agonizing spasms under control. And finally, because those spasms can paralyze breathing muscles, about half of all patients need to be put on a mechanical ventilator just to stay alive. It's an incredibly intense and long process.
But after hearing about all of that horror, the story of tetanus actually has a surprisingly simple solution. There is an ultimate defense, and it's safe, it's effective, and it's widely available.
Now here's something you might not guess. Unlike a lot of other diseases, if you get tetanus and you're lucky enough to survive, you are not immune. The amount of toxin it takes to cause the disease is actually too small to trigger a good immune response, which means you could get it all over again. The vaccine, though, that's a different story. A full course gives you near total protection.
And here's another critical point. For tetanus, there's no such thing as herd immunity. Because the bacteria lives in the soil, it's not passed from person to person. So it doesn't matter if everyone around you is vaccinated. The only thing that protects you from a spore waiting in the dirt is your own vaccination status. Your protection is 100% on you.
Which brings us right back to where we started this whole thing. We have a nearly perfect defense against this absolutely horrific disease. So why? Why are tens of thousands of people still dying from it year after year?
And the answer really is a pretty sobering reminder about how global health works. Tetanus shows us that just having the medical technology, the vaccine, the ICU knowledge, it's not enough. The true challenge, the real fight, is access. It's about making sure that every single person, no matter where they are in the world, can get the simple shot that prevents this whole neurological nightmare from ever beginning.